to Thursday.
Good morning.
Good morning. Oh, do we have voice waves?
Yes.
Yeah, we do. Okay. So today's kind of a hodgepodge of topics. The first thing I wanted to talk about, which has been brought up on Twitter again, is what the heck is going on with Princess Charlene of Monaco. She's been MIA now for like over a month after they made that big announcement that she was going to some kind of rehab.
My sole knowledge of this comes from some tweet that said it appears she's being held hostage somewhere.
I mean, it kind of does,
I haven't really been paying much attention.
So before the wedding, she apparently tried to escape Monaco like 3 times and get back to her family in South Africa and was unceremoniously sent back. She was crying during their wedding, and not like...
Happy tears.
Not like, oh, I'm getting married crying, like crying. And then they had the kids... and then she has been in South Africa for like a year saying it was some kind of big nasal surge, some total bullshit.
Right.
They finally get her back in Monaco and she's like whisked away and no one has seen her. No one can like talk to her.
It's very strange.
Like that should be the biggest royal news, is that like Albert of Monaco has allegedly like locked away his wife who never really wanted to be his wife.
Yeah, it's super weird.
But isn't it weird that, like, we don't hear about it? That's weird.
It is weird. I mean, I don't know. It's so weird. It's a little weird because in my lifetime, we've gone from where the royal family of Monaco was this big, huge news, and we heard about it all the time.
He was
and ever since
Kelly.
Princess Grace died, I feel like that's just completely gone away.
Yes.
I mean, those kids, Albert and Caroline and I can't even. We heard all about them. We sort of heard about their kids for a while. I don't know, and don't we think that Albert's like gay? But
allegedly, Mom.
Allegedly, I said we think. I mean, it seems like. I mean, he's. Yeah. I think he's like rough. He's either my age or older than I am, and he's got these
decrepit.
2 little.
We know this.
And I'm decrepit, but I mean, I have 2 adult. I mean, I didn't have kids young, and you guys are well into adulthood.
Yes.
And he's got 2 little kids.
Yeah. The whole thing was weird. I'm just saying it, and I think we underestimate how wealthy that family is. I mean, the royal family of Monaco has more money than like God.
Right, but we also have to remember that Monaco's this little like principality
that
has like 5 people in it.
But what if he's thrown his wife in jail?
I know, it's weird. I mean, I think the reason we don't hear about it anymore is because, I mean, you know, we're here in America. We sort of only care about Americans.
Sure, okay.
You know, it's become more international news since Princess Grace died, and there wasn't the clear American connection, and so they don't pay attention. Plus, we do have 1 or 2 things happening here that, you know,
I just think it's weird that we literally
more important.
That it seems like there's a total press blackout on it, and I think that's weird.
It is weird, and they probably get away with it because they're just this little.
Because the 4 citizens that live there don't care. If I interrupt you, remember you can hit me because it's immature.
Oh yeah, okay.
And terrible.
Okay.
So Crown Princess Mary's 50th birthday party or 50th birthday photos.
Oh,
I know, but I realized it was better in a different order.
Okay.
Shh. Don't.
We don't have a list.
We don't have a list. It all comes out of my head. So her 50th birthday photos came out, and they're like fine. They're like nice. But it kind of shows how you can do big birthday photos and not invoke any like Daughters of the Confederacy or like Ghost on the Titanic references. And it again shows that the UK royal family does things really differently than pretty much any other European family or royal family. I mean, they do things differently than, but it's just, I don't know.
I think most of them, other than maybe holding your wife hostage somewhere in Monaco,
except for Monaco.
Most of them have modernized.
Yes.
And you know, if they're not completely hip and trendy, they're at least way more in that direction than the British royal family.
Well, and I think the age matters. I mean, the Netherlands, Spain, Belgium, and Spain had a little controversy, but they still kind of fit, had old monarchs abdicating for their younger heirs. Who were still middle-aged, because the UK royal family has this weird thing where, you know, Prince William's 40 years old and is still not the heir.
Yeah.
And that kind of... that throws things out of whack. Yeah. Because, Crown Princess Mary, I mean, she's 50 and they're next in line.
Well, yeah, and it also, I think, doesn't help with the whole modernizing thing when not only the monarch is in her 90s, but the heir is in his 70s, and, it just doesn't scream youth movement or,
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not saying anything about, older people can do great things. You don't have to, your life is not over when you hit
we're not
middle
ageist.
age. We're not being ageist. It just, I think, for purposes of kind of an institution that has been criticized for being sort of mired in the past, I don't think it helps not to have any youth at the head.
Well, and I was saying, it seems like all the other families seem to have remembered the family aspect of this whole thing and not just the royal aspect, because you don't get the same kind of leaks. You don't get the same drama. They publicly support each other. I mean, you think of the kids in Sweden, they all three supported each other when they were dating people their parents didn't like, but they publicly, went to bat for each other. They seem to have remembered the family portion of that, and the UK royal family less so.
Well, yeah, and that's probably another instance where, if you're sort of born to this position, but yet you have to wait, 70 years or even 40. I mean, all this waiting time, I think, just makes people more anxious about the whole thing and more competitive, and they don't have anything. It just makes it way less functional overall, I think. I think it just makes it harder to...
Well, and I think the royal family keeps kind of not forgetting, but Charles is a big problem. And I don't think anyone ever really forgave him for Diana. And I again, in that tweet, I was saying, if Crown Princess Victoria or I'm trying to think, or the Mary's husband Frederick, even if their parents didn't abdicate, but they said, hey, we're going to take on more public responsibility, no one would say boo. Right. If Charles goes, mom's not abdicating, but I'm taking on more personal responsibility, the reaction would be like, oh, no, please
We'll see, and maybe there's some underlying either intentional or just subliminal feeling that, I mean, obviously, I don't think the British royal family and the British monarchy is on the ropes exactly, but it's kind of heading in that direction, it appears from the outside. And maybe the thought that people aren't going to accept Charles very well, and that will, hasten the demise, is in the back of certain monarchs' heads.
I think it is.
Doesn't, so... it makes it easier to, to kind of be ridiculously adhered to that, my whole life pledge that just seems a little silly that, anyone would hold against her abdication at this point.
Well, and
if it wasn't Charles.
If it wasn't Charles. And I think that if people got to actually know William, they wouldn't like him either. I just think he's an unlikable guy. Nowhere near what Charles invokes, but I don't think William is going to be the savior of this whole thing.
I think that is increasingly evident.
Okay. So, moving on to our non-list, moving right down the non-list. So to give you a sense, and this part of this tweet is wrong, but when he died, Prince Philip had 992 organizations that were still kind of related to him, whether he was the patron of, or he had been the head of, or whatever. 992. 10 years after marrying into the family as the future queen consort, Kate, at the time of this tweet, had 19. And still went years in between seeing them. Well, she picked up 2. Both rugby related, and I believe only one was Harry's, but they're making a huge deal out of this. And it's stupid, and they're again treating her like she's the savior of something. When again, 10 years in, she now has 21 patronages. Yeah.
Well, okay. The thing that I found most funny, and with the caveat that I know nothing about rugby, other than my understanding is that it can be, and from what little I've seen of it, it is not a, walk in the park.
No.
It's a very high contact, physically demanding, kind of brutal sport.
Yeah.
And I saw the video of, this workout Kate apparently did with them, and she's just sort of running down the field with the ball. And it's just, it seems
silly.
so that just to me didn't seem like anything about what rugby's about or what it's like, or this is not, it was like, oh, she's participating in a workout to get a feel for, and it's like, okay, again, I know nothing about rugby, but this didn't seem to me to have anything to do with what a real rugby workout would be like.
It was very showy.
Match or whatever. I'm sorry, I don't even know what they're called.
But what I don't understand is I'm a nurse. I'm not a PR person. But the only time Kate ever lights up and looks a smidge natural and relaxed is doing some kind of sport.
Yeah.
Why they did not give her every sporting... It blows my mind. It is the only time that she looks even a smidgen relaxed.
Yeah.
Is when she's doing some
she
kind
did.
of sport.
She looked comfortable running around in her casual clothes and trainers. I have to come up with the right word. I don't want to sound like an idiot. But it just didn't seem very rugby-like to me.
No, okay. It was still very staged, but again... Yeah. Looking at those photos versus like any other engagement, it's like, why didn't you give this woman every outing should be related to
Plus, you can get out there
sports?
and participate and not talk a whole lot. And,
yes. Okay, but going back to this, so in further context, Queen Elizabeth has about 600 patronages. Prince Charles has about 400. Camilla 90, Prince William 30, and Kate Middleton now like 21.
Yeah,
that's a hell of a drop off.
Yeah. And frankly, it's sort of more appalling that William only has 30. Because,
it is more appalling.
He's kind of
it.
Yeah. And, I do give I don't give her a pass on the whole, I'm just going to take a step back and raise kids. Although then apparently she's not, because now they're doing I don't understand. Is she taking a step back or getting more work?
It depends. It depends on what the headlines are. Of that day.
Anyway, but he's like the future king. Yeah. He's it. He's, he's the one who should be, working his way to that 600, I guess, or whatever. And so the fact that he has 30 is, particularly, and not that as a father, he also maybe shouldn't take somewhat of a step back while he's got little kids, but there's a big difference between 30 and 400.
Well, and I think it's a fair argument that can someone really, take care of 900 or 600?
Well, it's obviously just a name thing in a lot of ways.
But it kind of, again, goes back to the constant criticism of the two is that they have been pretty work shy.
Yeah.
That even with, less than 20 patronages, Kate Middleton, again, has gone like 8 years in between seeing patronages. That's bad.
Yeah.
She could see that each once a month.
Right. If you had 600, there might be an excuse.
Sure.
When you have 19,
and now it's higher than that because she got the rugby. But the other thing, too, is when Philip died, he had all these patronages still, and they have not moved to fill almost any of them. And now, there's been headlines in the news for days about how Kate's going to take over for Harry, and thank God, because she's going to be such a better patron, which is hilarious because rugby was one of the biggest patronages that say, we want Harry to stay.
Right.
Even if he leaves, we want him to still be our patron. And the Crown said,
Yeah.
Even when patronages were saying we don't want Andy, they also said on that one. Anyway, but it's just again this game that's very frustrating, and that William and Kate seem to be more than happy to play.
Yeah, well, I don't know. If you're going to make an argument that the royal family has value besides just drawing tourism to the UK, they've got to do something, and doesn't seem like the bottom of that list is doing a whole lot.
Well, I said this too. Charles got 60 years to build his 400 patronages as the Prince of Wales. William's not going to get a fraction of that time. William probably might not get 10 years as the Prince of Wales. Who knows?
Right.
So it just seems like it's like...
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Because especially an engagement can be showing up for 30 minutes. I mean,
yeah, and I suspect just because of the numbers that a lot of this is it helps organizations to be able to say, the Queen is our patron. Prince of Wales is our patron.
There actually was a huge study that showed that charities don't benefit at all from having royal patrons, like at all.
Then they should just get rid of it.
I know. I'm sorry, I did interrupt.
Completely silly. I was trying to figure out a reason that this matters. You know what I mean? Like,
I'll show you. I'll send you the link.
No, I believe you. I just am saying I was in my head trying to figure out, and I thought perhaps that one reason someone might have hundreds and hundreds of these that obviously they couldn't really go hang out with on a regular basis, that perhaps just, the letterhead of the charity being able to have, someone's our patron maybe helps with fundraising, but maybe it doesn't.
It doesn't.
So,
this is purely for them.
Yeah.
This is purely so they can say we're working. Even though, again, a 30-minute show and tell, hi, take some pictures counts as a full day of work.
Well, and the whole concept of patronages to me seems a little patronizing.
Well, but it was made up. It was made up in a pinch.
Right.
The royal family found themselves again in a squish where there was a lot of calls and you need to do more. And this is what they came up with like 70 years ago, and this is what they still do.
Well, and maybe 70 or 60 or 50 or 40 years ago, maybe it did help. Maybe it did help them. Maybe it helped them raise money. Maybe it helped something. But, some of these words, I don't know. Patronage kind of falls right in there with some of those hierarchical words that I feel like we're trying to eliminate from our vocabulary. But
so the other thing too, starting last month, so in January, is that they are really pushing hard for the Queen's Jubilee party in June. They're already sending out celebrities. It smells a little desperate.
Yeah.
Like they really want people to show up in June.
But will they?
But will they? I mean, is there really going to be?
And will there be something to show up for? I mean,
we have questions. But anyway, it's again already starting in 6 months in advance. They're pushing this thing.
Yeah.
And the one 10 years ago, even though they had the Olympics, did not have great crowd size.
Well, I mean, I suppose we'll still be in a situation in June that
they're going to blame
it on COVID. Yeah. But
I think they're kind of desperate to show that Harry and Meghan leaving is fine. Nothing changed. They're still big and strong, and it's going to be this big party because everyone loves the Queen. Please love the Queen. We know Charles is coming, but you love the Queen. Remember that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that part of it's probably more or less true. I mean, I think people do still have, fondness.
Sure, but will they show up to parties like they used to in the past? Probably not.
Well, probably not. I mean, for a variety of reasons. I mean, that whole sort of thing seems to kind of be going by the wayside. So.
But already, I was tweeting about how even if it's not a big turnout, the royal family in the past have kind of used Trumpian crowd. They did Trump before Trump did Trump with the crowd. They'll actually get people to come out and stand on with those little barriers, and then only take pictures from like chest level, so it looks like you have these royals with this huge crowd in the background that's only one deep.
Although your grandmother worked in Washington, D.C. The year after she graduated from college in 1962. Or maybe not even, I don't know. I might be getting my years wrong. But in the early 60s, your grandmother worked for the Social Security Administration in Washington, D.C. And they used to haul federal employees out to the streets when there were like parades or visiting dignitaries or something. So, I mean... In some respects, some of that is just an age-old PR kind of thing. But I think what's new is, I think they've always, I think that's just always been a thing. Like when there's supposed to be some sort of pageantry, people try to make sure that it's something. I think what's new is the lying about it. When there isn't a crowd of people the size that you'd expect, and where I suppose the Jubilee is a quasi public political kind of thing, governmental.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the word. Whereas, a political inauguration or something, the government isn't supposed to really,
There's a key word in there.
Yeah, well, I know. Haul people out onto the street. But, plus, I mean, the UK has like real problems at this point. I mean, they're in the middle of a real political crisis, not just
you're skipping my list. You're skipping down.
They're having rampant inflation and rising interest rate. I mean, there's like real things for people to worry about, and when people have real things that affect their lives to worry about, I'm not sure having a anniversary of your coronation party is top of mind.
Sure. Okay, we're gonna just one back to the crowd size for 1 second. Is to me this goes along with the lying aspect of it. Is when you use kind of faked photos for political purpose, which is look how many people showed up for Will and Kate, and not that many people showed up for Harry and Meghan, and they're faked. I mean, or they're manipulated. That's when we get to comment about
right. That's what I mean. I mean
the political use of altered photos or
lies
staged
about,
photos
or lies about this is the biggest ever.
Ever crowd size.
Yeah.
But moving, you skipped down on my list.
I didn't even see it on your list.
I have a question. What is the point of having an unelected head of state if she cannot intervene in a crisis?
I don't know.
What's the point? If the prime minister is over there screwing about, the police are refusing to investigate him screwing about, and you have this queen who is your head of state who just gets to sit on her hands and go, oh, that's...
But she's not the head of state. I mean, she's the ceremonial head of state.
But if you ask them
Boris
who their
Johnson's the head of state.
But if you ask them who their head of state is, they will say the queen.
Well, okay. But I mean, it's...
What's the point of her existing?
I don't know. So they can go ask if they can form a government, and she says okay, and she gets the red box. I don't know. I don't know how it works. I mean, I don't know how it's supposed to work other than allegedly, the royal family's above quote unquote politics. I don't know what that is supposed to mean.
But they're not.
And I mean, seriously, what's she supposed to do? I mean, what's even the monarchy supposed to do as an institution?
They have huge influence. If they wanted, they could, I mean, they're not supposed to, but they intervene in politics all the time when it suits them.
Well, yeah, but hopefully, I mean, I'm not sure we want the monarchy deciding who the police investigates at any level.
But they already do. They did. Why do you think they didn't investigate Andrew?
Well, I don't know. Is he alleged to have committed crimes in the UK?
Yeah, there was this whole thing about how they buried the like an investigation into him.
I don't know. I don't know how it works.
No, but that's an honest question. I mean, is as an American who has an elected head of state, so
right.
we're prefacing this with that. If you have a prime minister who the police is refusing to investigate, even though it is alleged he committed crimes that other people were prosecuted for, and she can't even say something about it, why does she exist?
Well, I think that's the ultimate question, is what use is the royal family at this point?
Other than ceremony. But if it's ceremony, then she shouldn't really be any kind of head of state.
I've never understood that. Like, if she's ceremonial, be ceremonial. If she's not ceremonial, then don't be ceremonial, and she can speak her mind on politics. I mean, it seems like and maybe that's part of the problem, is it seems this sort of quasi middle ground that isn't clear and doesn't have very super clear parameters, and it ends up being just completely not useful for anything. Yeah. I mean,
well, because royalists will tell you that she's only ceremonial, that they don't meddle in politics, but that's all bullshit. It's just total bullshit. They meddle in politics all the time.
Yeah.
And then the powers that be, kind of.
Well, and maybe, I mean, again, here's probably where I just have enough of a little smidge of knowledge to be dangerous, but the Queen is also the head of the Church of England, ceremonially.
Stupid.
Well, no, but that does, I mean, I realize it's kind of a sister thing. I'm not a member of the Church of England or Anglican religion, but I was born and raised an Episcopalian in the United States, which is sort of our version. And to my knowledge, the Queen never has, the Archbishop of Canterbury is the head of the kind of global Anglican faith. And I've heard about, the Archbishop of Canterbury, doing things that maybe resonate throughout the church. But I've never heard of the Queen doing anything in her capacity as head of the church, other than, it makes her apparently feel like she has to make decisions like who her sister can marry and these sort of things. Yeah. But I mean, I've never seen her have any, at least from an American perspective, it doesn't seem to me like the Queen has any involvement in or influence on or really does anything with the church other than to be sort of this figurehead at the top. I sort of feel like the governmental role is supposed to be the same way, but it doesn't seem to function that way. No. And obviously, she gets the red box. She gets the information about what's going on in the government and politically. She has to approve the formation of a government. Can she say no? Because, presumably, but I don't know that she ever does or would, because supposedly she's not supposed to that would be getting involved in politics. That's what makes no sense to me. Like, either be ceremonial and be hands-off, which, again, I'm sure people will correct me in the comments if the Queen, dictates what the Church of England does on a regular basis. But either be ceremonial about it and just be a figurehead, or be part of the government. It seems to me that this weird limbo, half-in thing does nothing but cause confusion and again, I'm not a British historian. I'm not an expert on the British government, and I'm sure we'll hear about how we know nothing about how any of this works. I'm just saying that from the outside, it looks like it's kind of this half in, half out, and it doesn't seem to work very well.
Well, my question too is, can you be the head of the church, a head of a church, and that not be considered a political position?
Sure. We've only, religion and politics has only been kind of enmeshed together significantly, at least in the United States, for the last 40 plus years, since the 70s and 80s when it's all started. I mean, I think I was listening to a podcast the other night where they were talking about, some things that we now consider political really shouldn't be.
No.
Feeding people, clothing people, not having people live on the streets. I mean, that shouldn't be a matter of politics. That's a matter of like humanity. And it shouldn't be political, but it is, because now here, everything is political.
Yes.
Getting a vaccine is political. Getting, everything's political.
Yeah.
So I think it's possible that church and state are separate. And I think that's how it should be. And I think it's possible. Does it happen? I don't know. All I'm saying is, it seems to me that the whole figurehead thing has more clear parameters on the church side in the UK than it does on the state side. I think it's muddied on the state side.
Yes.
And that's, I think it causes them to, it causes all this twisting up in knots to be like, oh, we're not being political, or we're not. Yeah. I don't know. The royal family costs a lot of money. Maybe they should do, I don't know. They don't really seem super, like maybe they are super qualified to be like the head of the government. But, I don't know. It just seems weird to me to be like, this is all ceremonial, but yet it's not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not an expert. I'm not a historian.
I was the first head of the Church of England. Yeah,
it's just
and it was political.
Okay, then we've come around full circle, because then then it absolutely was political, and that's one of the reasons that we have the whole separation of church and state here thing, because it didn't work so well in the old country.
In the old country.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons the founders of this country didn't want there to be... I'm not saying church and state... I'm not saying being head of the church is never political. I'm saying they can be separated. That's what I'm saying.
Even in the same person.
Well...
Even in the same person, because she's the same person.
Right, but if the person is truly just ceremonial, yes.
But she's not.
Well, I know it's weird. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
All right.
I don't get the impression she's using her position as the ceremonial head of the Church of England to influence the state, the government of England.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I mean, and that's where it becomes problematic. I mean, the interference of the church in the state is when the church tries to dictate what the state does or what the state laws are, and we know here that that's a big problem. And I'm not saying that the interference of churches in government things is not a humongous problem and isn't a bad thing, at least in my opinion.
Screw you, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
That's that.
Well, yeah, I mean... It's been a problem here a long time. I'm just saying, yes, my only thing was I think it can be separated. I'm not saying it is or has been.
Okay. I guess my opinion would be the opposite. I feel like any leader of really any organization that is that size, it becomes to pretend like that has no political ramifications. Again, I just don't think is reality. I think in a perfect world, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't think we live in that world.
I definitely think that's true. Although I don't know that, again, I think the Queen has used her position as head of the church to make personal decisions. I don't know that she's used her position as head of the church to make decisions that impact on the state.
Okay.
And maybe she has. Feel free to tell us.
You're not the one who has to clean up the comments.
Maybe
she's very important for world peace, Mom.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, we should have done this yesterday because that's such a Groundhog Day thing.
Okay. I'll explain that reference because I hid that comment, I think, pretty quickly. But anyway, Mom has to go to work. I have to go stew on how much I hate Ronald Reagan, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay. Goodbye.
All right, goodbye.